Let's do our NFC side. Who's going to go on to face the Bengals in Super Bowl 59? Division winners. I'll just run you. I'll run you through mine.
Okay.
I have the Lions.
Agreed.
I have the 49ers. I know these are maybe obvious ones.
Agreed.
For the NFC South, I've gone with the Falcons. I do think people are slightly underrating the Buccaneers, but I've gone for the Falcons. And now this is where I'm stumbling, right? Because this is my hottest of hot takes. This makes my Jacksonville Jaguars take feel absolutely ice cold. One team comes out of the NFC East.
I am with you.
Either the Eagles or the Cowboys.
Yep.
And the one that misses out on the playoffs entirely. I think they're going to be a low-win division, like we've seen from, say, the NFC South in recent years.
Yep.
And I think somebody is going to completely stumble over this year, one of those two teams.
We are pretty much identical on everything.
But who are you picking? I really can't decide. I've written Eagles on my piece of paper here, but then I keep flip-flopping.
So I am going to go Eagles with this one. I think, for me, looking at last year, Dak Prescott had what I would say is an MVP season, and they still managed to throw it all down the toilet at the end of the day. I mean, he's still got CeeDee Lamb. He's still got his guys. They no longer have Pollard. They have traded away their starting center, their left tackle. They've got some rookies, some young guys in there. I don't feel comfortable with the Cowboys being able to do it all the way. And we've seen them time after time choke in the playoffs. So I think the Eagles with Jalen Hurts and just with almost the literal need to make it, because otherwise Sirianni's not going to be around much longer.
Which, by the way,
Desperation.
in this situation, whichever of those head coaches fails to win that division loses their job. Like, they're the first person out on Black Monday.
I mean, but McCarthy's out this year. Dak Prescott's the end of his contract. So they're going to be out anyways. I was surprised they weren't out last year on the Cowboy side.
I think if they're hovering around 500, I'm intrigued as to how quickly Jerry Jones tries to get Bill Belichick in the building. What week does Jerry Jones pick up the phone and go, come on, Bill, I can be your GM. We can make this work, buddy. I don't think they can, but I think he could throw enough money at the situation. I think Bill Belichick, a little bit tempted by that situation. Dak Prescott, good defensive players in Micah Parsons and stuff. I think there's enough there to tempt him if he can agree that Jerry Jones stays out of his business.
I mean, so that's the key thing there. I don't know if Belichick would be able to manage the Jerry world side of things, because think about who the Patriots were always. They were secretive, insular. Literally, what's the complete opposite of that? It is the Dallas Cowboys, where you can go around the building and watch practice essentially as some random passerby. That would never fly for Belichick. Plus, he loves Nantucket. He loves the Northeast. I don't know if he's willing to come on over to Texas.
I'm not buying it. I think that's the job. That's a job big enough for him to give it. So I think we've settled maybe on the Eagles then. I feel like we picked the same division winners. So who are your wild card teams?
Ooh, well, I'm going to go Green Bay.
Okay, yeah.
And I'll be honest, I'm going to throw a little cheeky one in there.
Here we go.
I'm going to go Seahawks.
Okay.
And that's... and Bears.
Okay, so we are almost lockstep. I have the Packers. Yep. I have the Chicago Bears as a fun 7th seed wild card. This is my image for Caleb Williams this season. I think he is sensational, but sensational in a very kind of Peyton Manning, Brett Favre early days. Like, I think he's going to throw 29 touchdowns and 26 interceptions. I think he's going to win games and lose games. I think he's going to be a hell of a load of fun to watch.
Yep.
But it's going to be messy at times, and some people are going to come out of it because he didn't look like CJ Stroud and was perfect from moment one and treat it like it's a real issue. But I do think they get to the playoffs. My feeling on the Seahawks is, and this is as a 49ers fan, Mike McDonald couldn't be the more perfect head coach for them to bring in. Because what you've done is you've gone from, and we talked about Nick Sirianni being a vibes head coach. Has there ever been a bigger vibes head coach in the history of the league than Pete Carroll. I'm not sure he ever had a scheme. No. I think it was just as long as there's 11 players on the field and we're having a good time, we're going to win some games, right? Both sides of the ball, I mean, for that as well.
Absolutely.
And yet they went to the playoffs and they went to the Super Bowl and then they won a Super Bowl. Like, you know, they are a team who they survived off those vibes, and it was a beautiful thing to watch, even if you were a fan of a team in the division. I think Mike McDonald comes in and completely changes the whole culture. I just think that they have real problems. You look at that Ravens defense he ran last year, and you look at the quality of their off-ball linebackers. Yep. That's something Seattle don't have.
Correct.
I think that'd be a big problem. And I just think it's going to take... I think it's going to be the opposite of the Seahawks last year. The Seahawks last year, Geno Smith hurling the ball downfield, suddenly finding the best deep ball in the NFL, putting up 35 points a game on people, and it was a really fun watch, and they went out to a big lead, and then they couldn't sustain it.
Yes. Yeah.
I think this year they start slowly and they build into a better team, but I think that means they still miss out.
Not enough. Okay.
I love the Rams. I almost picked the Rams to win the NFC West.
Really?
Because I think the 49ers have a little bit of a slow start, a little bit of a stumble. Trent Williams coming back late. Brandon Ayuk coming back late. I know that, you know, the Ricky Pearsall situation has led to them having... It feels like that's really unified that locker room. Trent Williams even said the reason I came back earlier was because of what happened with Ricky Pearsall.
Yeah.
So for me... Like, maybe that gets them over the line, but they've got a tough start to the season, and I think the Rams are going to push them all the way. I do, however, have the 49ers beating the Lions in the NFC title game because...
Of course you do. Spoken like a true Niners
couldn't resist
fan.
it. And then all this talk about three-peats this year, there will be a three-peat because for the third time in Super Bowl history, the San Francisco 49ers will beat the Cincinnati Bengals. Super Bowl 16, Super Bowl 23, and now Super Bowl 59 as the quest for 6 comes to an end and the San Francisco 49ers finally hoist a Lombardi for Kyle Shanahan.
I don't know how I follow up with that. I feel like you should really just be the 49ers spokesboy from now on.
You are already, but... spokesboy, thank you very much.
No, I think that the 49ers are in a very unique position because I think that they're tired. I can understand from the Chiefs' perspective, look, hey, we want to get back to the Super Bowl. They've got something to work towards, getting that three-peat. You can kind of deal with that shortened season. Keeping in mind you're done February, which is obviously much later into the season than most other teams, and you're starting around the same time. So that off season, it's a lot more football. The 49ers, what is their motivation right now? Is their motivation just to get to the Super Bowl? Is it just to beat the Chiefs? I think that they're in a tough place, and I think that people are kind of figuring out Shanahan. I think they know what you're going to do. You're going to have multiple people playing multiple different positions across the board. But we've also seen them not be successful with they don't have Debo on the field. And it all kind of goes back to my conversation around Brock Purdy. What happens if people continue to figure out Brock Purdy? Because we've seen when he starts throwing interceptions and he starts to kind of come unraveled a little bit, that he struggles to be resilient in those moments mentally. And so I don't know, and I'm sorry if I'm stressing you and your 49ers.
No,
love.
not at all. Not at all.
I don't
not
know if the 49ers can do it again.
I think Dominic Pooney, the third-round pick, is going to prove to be one of the best rookie pickups of the year based on what we've seen from him in pre-season. I think the offensive line's going to figure it out a little bit. I think the 49ers, I do think they're slower to start. I do think they're stumbling. I don't think they are this number one seed absolute behemoth we've seen in recent years.
No.
But I think they figure it out as the year goes on, and as long as they can stay healthy and as long as they can bring the health on the defensive side of the ball, which I think is a bigger issue for them, the fact that they're not going to have Dre Greenlaw to start the year, the fact that they're not going to have Talanoa Hufanga, who might be starting on Monday, but is he full health? The fact that those guys are going to take a little while to come back, they've had change on that defensive line, all of those things are going to be a slower start. But I think they figure it out, and I think they get there eventually. Who are you having in the Super Bowl for the NFC then, before we go to tonight's game?
I'm going with the Lions. I'm going to say it's going to be a Bengals-Lions. It was Lions or Green Bay, if I'm being totally honest. But I'm going to say Lions because I just love Dan Campbell, and his new commercial is what sold me.
Unbelievable. So good. Tigers and Lions in the Super Bowl. Who wins it?
I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals.
Oh, it would be lovely for them to finally get over the line. But if they face the 49ers, it's not going to happen.